And we are live with another episode of Hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel presented by thejeopardyfan.com. Once again, I am Andy Saunders. I will be moderating tonight's discussion. This is May 11th, 2016 at 9 p.m. and this is the first panel for the 2016 Teachers Tournament. I have a great panel this evening, so let's get right into the introductions. First up, we have returning to Jeopardy Live panel a former Tournament of Champions winner, a former Teachers Tournament winner, Colby Burnett. Thanks for joining us again, Colby. Introductions. First up, we have returning to Jeopardy Live panel, a former Tournament of Champions winner, a former Teachers Tournament winner, Colby. Thanks for joining us again, Colby. Feel free to say something.
All right. It was good to be back. Thank you, and it's good to see a potential successor. Been a very interesting tournament, and yeah.
Not me.
Well, okay, I said A. That is not. But no, you guys seem very nice and gregarious, and you guys got to go inside the White House, and I got to go inside the Sony Studios canteen, and at least you got that going.
Too. We got both. Cory had to hang out in the green room, though.
Oh, yeah, I had green room pizza.
Green room pizza.
Ooh.
Oh, goodness.
So also on our panel tonight, also returning to Jeopardy Live panel, Amanda Walker. I've got Amanda, for those of you who don't know, Amanda was on about 10 years ago in the college championship, so she knows a lot about how to play in a tournament. Thanks for joining us, Amanda.
Yeah, good to be here.
Following that, we've got three players from this year's tournament. I'm going to introduce them in, I think, the order of which your quarterfinals aired. First up, from New Jersey, Jason Sterlacci, I think it is?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's
I was
perfect.
99% sure it was Sterlacci and not Sterlacci, so I'm glad I got it right.
I answered to both. But yeah, it's Sterlacci. It's a pleasure to be here.
So thanks for joining us. Congratulations on your performance so far.
Thank you so much.
Next up on the panel from Des Moines, Iowa, Jill Gilbert.
Oh, hello.
Thanks for joining us. And finally, Cory Harris. His quarterfinal was on Friday. His semifinal, along with Jason's, was tonight. He already alluded to the green room pizza from his sequester during the quarterfinals.
That was good stuff.
Thanks for joining us, Cory.
Good to be here.
Okay, so the first item of discussion tonight, I think we'll go straight into talking about strategy and the tournament quarterfinals. All five of you have taken part in at least one, if not more, Jeopardy tournaments. So obviously the wild cards have always been at play. What did you take into account when putting your strategy together after you got the call?
Well, what I did, this was obviously quite a long time ago, but the wild card thing has stayed pretty much the same, which is that your goal is not just to, obviously you want to win the game if you can, but there is a secondary goal that isn't present in most of the regular games, which is you want to potentially get in as a wild card and leave that door open for yourself to do that. And that means sometimes playing in a way that doesn't go straight for the win, which you can feel a little bad about sometimes, but can sometimes be the better course of action to play it safe.
What about you, Colby? You've done 3 tournaments by my count?
Yes, that is correct. So, really what I did was I set a goal of, I think I set my goal at 20 grand, which is pretty optimistic. And then, and there was just a moment where, like, you sit in the green room and you talk strategy with someone, And I didn't know that I'd be facing against the person that I was talking to, but that's just how it worked out. And that's the person I went against, Michael, and I had Michael, and I had to try to beat him 3 times. But the first game, we looked at each other, it's like, all right, if we're both around like 20 grand, we're not going to bet heavy and go at each other, right? I think we'll both get in. And then like we wound up drawing together, and that's exactly what we did.
Now, what about our 3 contestants this week? Did you have anything in mind going in? What kind of considerations did you have?
I was hoping for 14,000. I think 14,000 was like either a 70 or 80% chance of making a wild card. So 14,000 was my goal. And honestly, in my round, I think I had 14,800 going into the final. And in the very last question, my competitors nagged on a $2,000 question and gave me the lock, basically. But even if they hadn't, I'm not sure I would have bet. I think I probably would not have bet because I would think that would be enough to get a wild card. And I was really, there's really no advantage to winning versus a wild card.
Right. The goal is simply to move on, and however you move on, you've done your job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I look at it the same way.
Yeah, I had
Sorry, go ahead, Cory.
Oh, I was just going to explain. I had been reading Keith Williams' site, and he did a breakdown of wild cards for the college tournament, and I knew it wasn't quite analogous, but there wasn't a large sample size for the teachers tournament, and with the college championship having 4 people tie like at 14-6, that's about what my goal was. And in my game, I was in 3rd place by 200, and at that point, I was making sure I was going to be ahead of at least one person. I didn't think Barry would risk it all. And it was also author as a category that I had more confidence in than probably I should, but I'm an English teacher, so at least you have to bet on yourself. And I didn't see any value in just risking 6,000 because if I get that wrong, I'd be at 2,400. And even though it would have worked for this year, in almost any previous year, it wouldn't have worked. So, I bet pretty much everything. I saved $2, which would have kept me in like 8th place or something like that. But I figured if I would have lost by wild card by $2, that was just just the guys would have hated me. So I went by those kind of statistics that Keith put up, and I knew if I was 3rd place going into final that I had to try to at least beat out one person for a wild card. And it was just a matter of how many dollars I had. If I had 10,000, I don't know if I would have bet 9,998. But it really depended on the fact that I was in last.
And what about you, Jason?
I think my goal was to make sure in the quarterfinal that I didn't have to worry about math. Ultimately, I'm not a math person, as Twitter will let you know based on the reactions to the way I wagered on that daily double in the quarterfinal and the way I wagered on final. But my goal was try to make it so that I didn't have to worry about it. And ultimately I did. But yeah, I think 15 probably would have been my lower limit that I was like hopeful about and optimistic about. So thankfully I didn't really have to worry.
And I mean, also when you're sitting at 21-6, it certainly makes things a little bit easier for you. Now, I think I might have accidentally interrupted Amanda. What were you going to say?
Oh, thanks, Andy. I was just going to say that I noticed you guys talked about having target amounts in mind, and I wish I had been so sophisticated. I can blame at least that the final wager did not exist when I was on the college tournament. In fact, I think Keith was just on the college tournament a couple years before I was, and then the final wager came along much after. That I was just trying to be sort of careful, but sort of have some faith in myself, which was before like the real serious the math came into play. And even when it's a category you know, like you talked about being authors and you're like, okay, I have some faith in myself. Mine was state capitals, and I almost felt bad for wagering kind of small. I only wagered 3,000, but again, I was thinking about like, oh, but what if it's just some obscure thing and then I lose on that? How bad will I feel and not get to move on? So I had less strategy, I guess, and maybe I should have, but it worked because I got to move on. So. Good for you guys.
Of course, J-Archive was only a couple of years old when you were on as well, so
yes.
The data simply wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of fun to look back on those now. I was refreshing my memory when I figured in case our specific numbers came up, I was like, I better remind myself what I did wager and what I ended up with just in case I need that for tonight.
And obviously it worked out for all 5 of you because you made it, you've made it through to a semifinal at least once. So.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess I can. Did any of you, after the fact, kind of have any regrets about what you elected to do in your quarterfinal?
Yeah. Sorry to speak. I definitely did. I went over it again and again in my mind, like, if I'd wagered more, I could have won my game straight out, and I could have said I won on Jeopardy, and that has haunted me for years. Actually being engaged in some of these things, these panels, and I even talked to Keith, like asking Keith, like, Keith, was my decision an okay one? And he was like, it was okay. I probably would have given it an orange. And I was like, if Keith approves, it's okay. What about the rest of you guys?
Oh, I definitely regretted my final Jeopardy wager. I should have just done $0, but in the moment, I wanted to try to make sure it was, put myself over the top. I didn't want it to be a tie, and I could have bet even $1, but I guess I got just caught in the moment, and as soon as I locked it in, I realized, wow, that was a very dumb decision. But thankfully, it worked out.
You're just stupid.
This is true. Corey knows. My wife is watching, Corey.
Oh.
She's going to fight you.
You must be stupid too.
Oh.
Yeah. In mine, you don't get to see any of the other games, obviously, and I didn't see any of them because I was in the green room the whole time. And so, as I was watching the games this week and saw how I thought that the Final Jeopardies were pretty hard this week or last week, and I definitely would have gotten 2 of those wrong, and I might have gotten. There were very good odds I would have gotten the one that Jill was on wrong. I saw the answer before I ever saw the question, so I wouldn't know. But and I also wouldn't have known that. I would have felt bad that I think 1301 was all you needed to advance. But just giving out the information that you have, I thought that I was pretty happy with what I did. Maybe I should have left 100 or 101 rather than just $2. But I think you do have to bet on yourself as much as you can.
Yeah, I knew I didn't know anything about the solar system, honestly. I mean, I studied, but no depth of knowledge. On my final question, I thought that it would not be a planet because I thought a planet would be too obvious for Final Jeopardy. So then I was like, well, now I'm going to go to a moon. And then I went with Ganymede because he was Zeus's male lover, and I thought those people seemed like lovers except for Margaret Mead, who doesn't seem like a lover. But I mean, I knew I bet 0, but still, I don't know. I felt a little dorky. But one of my competitors actually had a degree in astrophysics, so it made me, look okay, I guess.
Good point. So how have your schools reacted to your appearances on Jeopardy?
I'll go first, or Corey, you can go first.
Oh, okay. They've been really good. We have a small school. I'm a small private school here in New London, Connecticut, and there's only about 240 kids in the school, and we have grades 6 through 12. And they were really excited. A lot of the younger kids were, quizzing me on stuff they learned. And I mean, what's interesting about my school is we have a classics program, and I never took Latin, and I never really did much with French history, and so they would essentially learn something that day and quiz me on it, and then give me a hard time for not knowing it. But you know, I had a lot of support. I was lucky being at a private school. I know, Jill, you were talking about having unpaid days.
Yeah.
For your job at my school. I could, you know, they just wanted me to go. They wanted me to at the school, and you know, I think there was just I think they value the learning aspect of it. That's, you know, if we were doing, you know, Wipeout or something like that, like I don't think we'd have parties and have people all excited. Although I wouldn't mind going on Wipeout.
Wipeout teachers tournament.
Everyone would watch.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
It'd be very cathartic, right, for all of us six-figure making teachers.
Oh yes, gosh, you guys, you take it down.
So my school is, I think they had a blast with it. We had a party on Friday, which we were only able to do thanks to Opus the Penguin on the J board, who was able to upload the game early for me, because we didn't get satellite or TV reception. And it was just really cool to see kids like invested in like how well you're doing, and then like, oh, when you get one wrong, and mocking me for not knowing Leonidas, and then being really happy at the come from behind victory. Like it's just a nice celebration of all the stuff that we do as teachers, caring about learning.
Yeah.
Now, what about you, Jill?
Well, my school is kind of an odd, I don't want to say it's an odd school, but it's not typical. I could not figure out why they kept calling us Central Academy Magnet School, because that's not our name. And then I figured out that when, I think it was Lori called me, she said, so do you teach at a middle school? And I said, well, I teach middle school students, but it's kind of at a high school. I mean, we're not really a school, we're more of a program. So we're not like a traditional school. We're a program where the gifted kids from all over Des Moines Public Schools come to our program for several classes a day and take advanced coursework, basically. So we don't have, I don't want to say we don't have a lot of school spirit, but we kind of don't. But the whole town of Des Moines, I feel like, has really embraced me. The news channel that airs Jeopardy is right across the street, and so they had me come over and do a live interview, and they've been really promoting it. And the Des Moines Public Schools, like, publicity people came today, and they filmed my classes watching me play, and interviewed me and put a nice article in. I mean, everybody's been very, 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 very nice. So my school itself, like my students, have been watching, and they come and hug me in the morning when they see me and whatever. But I just don't have a traditional school. I was at a regular middle school until this year, and we would have been like having pep rallies and that kind of thing, because that's what we did at a regular school. But this is just more of an academic program, I guess.
Okay.
Have pep rallies for an academic program, wouldn't it? Cheering, talking about AP testing.
Yay! And it is AP testing this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be quiet in the hallways, you know, and there's IB testing. I mean, yeah, it's the nerds are alive this week.
And you, Jason?
It's pretty cool, my school's reaction. We're a school of about 1,000 kids, about 100 teachers or so, and the support I've gotten from my students, current and former, and the support I've gotten from my coworkers has been amazing. As you can see, I'm wearing plaid. Plaid's like my thing. I wear it almost every day to work, and on the day of my quarterfinal episode, every teacher in the building basically was wearing a plaid shirt in support, and today all the kids were wearing plaid, and it's just, you know, it was really funny. I wasn't supposed to know about it, but I found out, and so I was pretending to be shocked and surprised, but it was amazing. I've never seen this kind of support. Somebody messaged me the other day and said, like, this is the best thing to happen to our town in so and so many years, and it's incredible the amount of support I've gotten from my town. I think it might be because it's my hometown as well. I grew up there. I went to school there, and
Oh yeah, so you're like a hero.
Yay.
yay.
So, Jason, I just realized, being from New Jersey, I think I'm obligated to ask you what exit.
139B.
Okay. In case there's anyone else like Vinny or Jason Keller watching, there's your answer.
Oh, and if anyone wonders what I'm drinking, it's a Moscow Mule with white peach ginger beer. I know sometimes that comes up on Jeopardy Live panel, so it's very good.
So another, I guess, interesting thing about taping in D.C. You had some time between your quarterfinal and your semifinal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What did you guys do with that time? Any further preparation?
So I I basically pushed back a lot of the work I had to do for grading and stuff like that while I was preparing for Jeopardy. So the first thing I had to do was do all my grading of essays, and we had these comments we had to write for students. And then we went to Disney World, actually, which was a lot of fun. So I didn't really do much for the first 3 weeks we had back, but then I did a lot more studying. I listened to a whole book on all the presidents. Don't know much about U.S. presidents. Studied maps. Finally got, except for the islands, I was able to finally get all the countries in the world on Sporkle right. So that kind of reinforcement, that whole, someone said it somewhere about teaching, right? You get it to you, not till you get it right, but till you couldn't get it wrong. And so a lot of the stuff I was only okay on, I was able to shore up.
Mm-hmm.
And it did help. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I did a lot more in wagering stuff.
Same.
Yeah, I was really looking at that and all the different permutations and possibilities. And when I watched the game, I would try to predict what everybody should do. And in real time, I didn't have a whiteboard or anything like that, but I wasn't as lazy about it as I didn't fast forward through everything. I tried to figure it out. So that time helped. It also made it so the whole Jeopardy experience was 3 months until everything was taped, and with this other month of showing, it's been on our minds, I think, for 4 months, which is, almost, I think at this point, like a clinical condition. But I definitely played better having 6 more weeks than I would have the next day.
Wow. So I didn't know about the spacing. It was did you say 6 weeks between?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. February 24th?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
April 10th.
Wow. Is that normal for a teacher's tournament, or was that unique to this year?
I don't think so. I think they usually get taped in back-to-back days or something similar to that. I don't know. Colby could probably speak more to that than any of the rest of us.
Yeah. It was all together. So for me,
And yours was all in studio too. Maybe the Washington D.C. had something to do with it.
Yeah, I think they probably just figured they had a certain number of slots to tape, and they needed another week, and what better way to do it than put the teachers in there?
Yeah,
that's what I hope. It makes it good.
Mm-hmm. Now, how did you spend the 6 weeks, Jason and Jill?
Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. I watched a ton of old episodes. On some of them were like, kind of bootleg online stuff. I used up everything on my DVR that I had been DVRing forever, and just really practiced ringing in. And I really felt like I got more of the rhythm of the questions and the kinds of things they ask. I went on Quizlet and I tried to learn all the you gotta know lists, like obscure nonfiction and famous authors. I mean, all that kind of stuff. I learned the world capitals. I drilled on state capitals and state nicknames. I learned the presidents by number. I should have learned the dates of their terms, and obviously, that would have been good. I just didn't do it. In the end, honestly, hardly anything I studied came up. And, sometimes I had like a personal connection with the information, like I've read the book, I've been to these places, and I still didn't get rung in, so I don't know. I feel like practicing on the buzzer helped me the most, probably, more than my actual studying. The other thing I did, I did go to Ticona last year, and that's where I met Colby, actually. I got to play against Colby in some obscure game show that doesn't exist anymore. Do you remember what it was, Colby?
Was it the one with the tokens that we had to place?
Oh, God, no, I don't think I played the token one.
Wait,
it was
which
the
one
one
was
where
it?
you had to, like, add on to stuff. Like, add on words and words and words.
Push.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that game.
Yeah, you were really good at it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I figured out at Ticona that I was really bad on the buzzer, like really, really bad on the buzzer. So then I just really worked on the buzzer because I thought if I can't buzz in, then I'm lost. I mean, I just won't go anywhere with this show.
Was Tacona after you knew you were going to be on the show, Jill?
No, it was after I had auditioned in July. And I felt like the audition went really well, and I felt like this could be my one shot at being on Jeopardy, so I better do what I can. So I went to Ticona, and it was super fun. And I would totally go again. I can't go this year, but I'm going to probably go in another year.
Okay. I've heard it's really cool, especially the game show marathon thing. I've been like,
that's what I did.
I want to be part of that.
Yeah, I did that almost all night. I played Lingo and Password and Match Game. I played some weird Canadian game shows, if you can believe that.
Andy,
it was great. Every single time, like, I practiced introducing
Canadian
myself.
Game shows are not weird.
Oh, sorry. I just never heard of them, and they weren't typical, Andy.
Okay.
I'm curious.
When was your audition in Kansas City, Jill? I don't think we were in the same group, but
July 1st.
Which session on July 1st?
I want to say either like 9 or 9:30 in the morning, maybe. And I had Karina and Glenn.
Mine was at 12.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
All world.
It would have been smaller if we'd had if we'd been in the same audition group, but.
I was in the same group with Sabrina Fritz.
Yeah. It's not that group.
No.
Yeah. I believe my audition group is still 0 for the call. So. So, I'm going to ask this one next because I suspect Amanda may have to go shortly, and she has probably something to say about this subject as well. You guys were on location. Amanda was on location for a college championship. And this ties in with a question that I ask all the time here on Jeopardy Live panel. But what happens with lunch when you go on location?
That's a really good point. I hear people talk about the Sony canteen all the time, and I was like, oh yeah, the cafeteria. But it just dawns on me now that whatever cafeteria I was in was not that, because Cory, mine was filmed on location at NC State.
Oh yeah.
Did you go there? I'm guessing, or?
Yeah, that's where I got my Master of Fine Arts. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Amanda,
near NC State.
Weren't you at like the RBC Center where the Hurricanes play now?
Exactly. It was just like down the road, NC State.
Okay.
Yeah. So I barely have any memory of the lunch there. I know lunch is always a big topic, and I honestly have no memory of what I ate. I think I sat with Sarah from the Clue Crew, so the presence of the Clue Crew and normal stuff was there. I remember another guy from my tournament, he had put some of those the little butter balls they have molded into balls on fancy buffets. He popped one into his mouth thinking it was cheese, and it was like, water. That is my only memory that has remained from lunch there.
So what did they do at DAR Constitution Hall for lunch?
So there was a room set up in the basement. It must have been like set aside as like a lunchroom. And I remember, lunch had basically already started when they got me off stage. So Maggie basically pulled me through the crowd, telling me that I couldn't say a thing to anybody, and people were coming up to me going, "Hey, congratulations on making it to the finals." And I'm just like, and she's like, "Don't even do that." And I'm like, "Okay, sorry." We were led downstairs, and Jill, Kabiri, and I sat together with, I want to say it was Karina and Glenn. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And we were basically told, do not open your mouths or talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had just like a buffet style spread out there for us. Not very many options for me. I'm a vegetarian, so I think I had a single slice of cheese, if I remember right.
And you sure it wasn't butter?
No, it was definitely not butter. And I'm going to say like a cookie. But there was this big spread of meat. It looked great, honestly. I was a little jealous. But yeah, I can't, beyond that though, it was kind of a blur. It was off stage, eating, get changed.
Yeah. Mm.
Now, was it any different for, was it like after your episode, I guess like for you, Cory, after the episode tapes, what was it like for you for lunch? Were you kind of just being like on your own, or?
We went to the same place. It sounded like they did. I'm guessing
I saw you over there. Yeah, you were in like a corner. We were in.
Oh, I didn't even see you in there. Yeah. So it was the same thing. It was just everybody was eating there, and I was pretty hungry because they took us out of our kind of green room and didn't really tell us that we were never coming back. So I didn't grab anything to eat. I didn't have anything at all. At one point, I think right before my game, maybe it was right after. I can't remember what it was, but it was right before my game that Amy asked if we need anything, and she got me a banana. But yeah, I didn't.
Right.
I was really hungry because I basically hadn't eaten since like 7 or 7:30, and I don't think I played until noon or something.
It was afternoon when we played.
Yeah. So
I don't think we got to eat until about 4 in the afternoon.
It felt that way.
I was completely exhausted going into dinner, honestly. And then it didn't sit well with me because I was so nervous, which also wasn't good.
By the way, speaking of taking a while, first up, if anyone has any questions for the panel, you can leave them on Twitter using hashtag #JeopardyLivePanel, which segues into one question I've got here on the hashtag from @CedarQuizJags. There seems to be some awkward edits in some episodes you were in. Care to explain what went down? So it sounds like they stopped tape on a couple of occasions to deal with some judges' rulings. So do you want to talk about that a bit?
Before anyone talks about that, I am going to have to go, so I wanted to say bye. Are any of you on the episode that's airing tonight? I'm on the West Coast, so I'm getting ready to watch Jeopardy within the hour.
Yes, Jason and Cory are both on tonight's episode.
Oh, excellent. Well, retroactive good luck to both of you.
I think we may have spoiled it for you, Amanda. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right, this. Wow, good job then.
Sorry about that. Didn't realize.
That's okay.
I think it might be different on the West Coast. I'm hoping.
No, maybe.
Here's hoping, Cory. Okay, well, good to be on here with you guys, all you teachers. Good job, and I'll see you all later.
Thanks,
Bye,
Amanda.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye.
So yes, what sort of tape stoppages were there?
Well, we were all in the audience for the biggest one, I would say.
That was fun.
In the first semifinal game this week, they stopped the tape because it was a World Capitals category, and the question was the capital of Bangladesh, and Peter rang in first and gave an incorrect response. Then Kabiri got in, and the way she pronounced Dhaka was Taka, because that's apparently more authentic in Bengali, but that threw everyone into quite a tizzy. And I remember it lasting like 45 minutes, but
Easily. It was easily 45 minutes. Yeah, I
it
remember
felt like for flippin' ever, because we were sitting in the audience, you know, hungry, tired, and waiting to go on, and nervous and whatever. It felt like maybe they could have figured it out a little quicker. Do you guys have any more to say about that?
I remember turning to... Oh, go ahead, Corey.
I was going to say, I remember Alex really trying to kind of stretch the question and answer period for a long time. I mean, he basically did, you know, like his own like stand-up comedy set in that
Really did.
like half an hour. Like he kind of pulled it out like Dave Chappelle showing up at the DC Improv or something. And it was one of those, like the story behind it. If anyone reads it, Kaberi put it on the J board. It's a really good testament to standing up for herself and her culture and her heritage.
Definitely.
You know, as she said, she would have had to pronounce it incorrectly for it to be correct for our American Standard English. But it's a very strange edit when you watch it on TV, because it just says, you know, we'll accept Taka, and then the crowd goes nuts.
Nuts.
You're just like, why are they so
Why do
excited
they
for this?
care?
But it's because it was the better part of more than half an hour of waiting for the game to move on.
I remember turning to you and saying, like, I don't know what is taking so long. Like, this seems like the easiest thing to confirm. But yeah, Alex put on quite the show for the audience. So I don't want to say it flew by, because it definitely did not. But yeah, my coworkers were like, "Why did everybody break into applause after that?" And I was like, "You have no idea. Just no idea."
I will add, there was another edit in my quarterfinal game where one of the answers in not to be confused with, the answer was basically, what is read or write? And I have this joke with my students sometimes where I'm an English teacher, and if they show me like their work, I'll like say like, you know, I don't know how to read or write, or like I'm illiterate, like one of those stupid teacher jokes. And
I make the same joke.
Yeah. And I literally said, you know, what is read or write? I'm glad I'm not that. And I was just horrified after that, because the way it could be misconstrued on Teachers Week that I'm like making fun of illiterate people. So I actually sent an email to Maggie, kind of saying like, this is the spirit of the joke, and I think it just looks really bad on the show if that's on there. Like, I didn't mean to, obviously, to make fun of that. It was one of those, they tell you to relax, and I finally did. And then I said something stupid. So if you watch that show, you can clearly see they edited out something. And if anybody was curious, it's my stupidity.
They edited my interview down quite a bit in the semifinal. Bill has a pretty long interview, and Chris has a pretty long interview, and I just say, my mom's a teacher, my dad's a teacher, my brother's a teacher, my aunts are teachers, and Alex is like, all right then, and he walks away. And in reality, he said, and you're all in it for the money, aren't you, Jill? And I said, yep, they pay us the big bucks. And none of that made it on. And I thought, well, maybe they think it's controversial to imply that teachers are underpaid. I don't know. But it was just kind of odd, because really mine is like 5 seconds long, and theirs are like a minute and a half apiece. But I don't know why. But that's okay.
That seems to be a bit of a political hot-button issue as it stands anyway, but
Yeah.
You're telling us.
judging by what I've seen on Twitter and Facebook this week. But so you guys went to the White House in D.C. Did you guys do anything else as a group?
Not really.
Yeah, not as a group.
Mm-mm. Did
tell us
anybody
more
ever
about
get
the White
together and
House.
drink or anything?
Well, we didn't really have like contact information, so
No.
we didn't really have any way of trying to meet up. And then I think a lot of people had people in town, and I think getting ready, and then I know I walked home from the tournament with my wife and kid. Some of you guys rode the bus, and I don't think anything went on after that. But I think we became pretty close, but we just didn't have anything beforehand to really connect us.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Chris and I are talking about going to a Mets game at some point, but we'll see. We're both big fans.
So, how was it? So, was there anything on your White House trip that wasn't covered in that video that Jeopardy posted? Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
We're all just being polite, I think, trying to get everybody else stuff.
Contemplating.
Yeah.
Okay.
The video was basically the essence of it. I don't think it mentioned really that it was one of Alex's sons that was also in some of the pictures.
Mhm.
We saw just the East Wing. We didn't go to the West Wing. We didn't see anybody affiliated with the administration. But it was a pretty magnificent tour. I don't think they really like mentioned. I don't think in the video they mentioned like the fireplace where FDR did the fireside chats. There was a piano that I remember Maggie started playing.
Yep.
That she was like, I shouldn't have done that. And in the interview, at the end, it talks about how Alex kind of gave some tidbits to the docents there, or the interns, or whoever it was. But it also doesn't mention how, I don't know if there are other people felt this way, that he asked us some trivia questions while we were in there. And
Yeah, he was trying to put us on the spot. I remember that.
I don't think any of us knew any of them. And
No,
I think
we were
just
found lacking.
so disappointed in us.
I thought it was really neat to get to spend so much time with Alex Trebek, honestly. And he was very, I think he's a little reserved, but he was very gracious and friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maggie, of course, was a very outgoing personality and very fun. It was great to get to spend that additional time. Also with the other teachers, I just thought it was a wonderful group of competitors. I was watching my final wager video that Keith put up, and he said, I'd love to know why Chris and Jill keep talking to each other after every round. And it's because he's such a great guy, and so was Bill. And it was fun to play, but we just really connected, I felt like, together. So that was another neat part about the White House tour, and about the whole experience stretching out over so long, is that I felt like we became maybe better friends than you typically would with a competitor.
Totally agreed. The other highlight, I think, of the White House thing was when we were waiting in the lobby. It was even before we got there. None of us knew, I don't think, that Alex was going to go on the tour with us. And then he walks up to us, and he's like, hey, guys, we ready to go? Oh, by the way, this is my son, Matt. I don't remember any of your names. Let's get on the bus. And I was like, let's do this.
And then there was a guy who stormed the bus to kind of fan worship Alex. And he's like, Mr. Trebek, I watch you on the show. You must have a brilliant mind. God bless your brilliant mind, Mr. Trebek.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and I thought, oh my word, what Alex must go through on a daily basis. God bless your intellect, he said. It was really something. I couldn't get over it.
And one of the cool things for me is in the episode that aired tonight in the semifinal game is on the question he asked, it was about a painting in the White House, and it was because he was there and he heard me talking about it. And I don't know if I'm the only person ever on the show who's had a question asked by Alex Trebek based on Alex Trebek's knowledge of a situation where we were both there together.
That's a good point.
So that was exciting to me. And I hope I picked, because I asked to get it. And I hope they send me the picture from Jeopardy about it, because they showed it. And we haven't got anything besides the video. But it was a really fun experience, no doubt.
I mean, I think Alex has talked about things that have happened, during the end of game chats, but I don't think that. I think that's definitely to me at least, the first time that might have happened, and that was very interesting. So moving back to the quarterfinals a bit, I'm curious as to what movies they gave you during your sequester.
We started with The Princess Bride.
Solid.
Yeah, and did you guys? I mean, Cory, you would know. Was it Iron Man that you guys watched after? I don't even.
Yes, it was that we picked Iron Man after, and I think it was just for the last 6 of us. Jill, you played Wednesday, right?
I played Wednesday, and we, right at the end of Princess Bride, I got to go back into makeup and be swept away. So that was perfect. I was getting really wound up. I was like pacing and stuff. It was not good.
Yeah. So yeah, Iron Man was the second one, and we had before the other game ended, because we had to eat lunch in there too, which was the hour lunch break, and we had about 15 minutes left before the other game was over, and we just watched like the special features and deleted scenes and like just really trying to stretch out the noise, especially since it was just me, Bill, and Kaberi, and it was just no one wanted to talk to each other. So, Iron Man I think was just the easy choice of the people who were left because it was, brain dead fun.
So no James Bond movies, obviously, for selection.
Oh.
I've been told they screen the movie selections to make sure there are no questions in the tournament about any of the movies they put in the green room.
I was wondering that because I was looking through the archives. One of the teachers' tournaments it was either last year or 2 years ago, had a question on The Princess Bride on it, about Peter Falk. I didn't think about that until I got back for the 6 weeks in between. But no, I don't think there were. Yeah, there were no. Some of the options were like planes, trains, and automobiles, and
Shaun of the Dead was an option. I was pulling for that.
It was a good movie. But yeah, no Iron Man, no Princess Bride. Yeah. No 300 for my game. Kung Fu Panda.
Okay, my next question is actually for all of you guys, including Colby. It's one that I've just started asking again, or at least started asking Sarah Edwards. She was on 2 or 3 weeks ago on here on Jeopardy Live panel, and she asked a really good question of the panel that I decided I wanted to start asking of everyone, and that's what kind of was the moment where you fell in love with Jeopardy?
All right. So my earliest memory of Jeopardy is actually not related directly to the show. So my mom pretty much refused to watch movies alone, so I saw some films that maybe I wasn't supposed to see when I was young. And I saw White Men Can't Jump. And so the scene where Woody Harrelson's girlfriend, played by Rosie Perez, is this Jeopardy superstar. And she goes and she like just tears stuff up. And it's like, hey, hey, I'd like to do that. And I had this natural tendency of knowing stuff. It's like, so there's a show. I mean, White Men Can't Jump came out. I would think I was 7, maybe 8 years old. And so there's a show where you can do that. So I started watching the show. And then my mom got me an NES game that was on Jeopardy. And since this is like 1991 technology, that means for every single answer you had to click on all the individual letters and hope it, and spell it out. So it took forever, but I was still like really into it. So I pretty much moved from there.
Yeah, I remember before they rebooted. I'm older than the rest of you people, but I remember when they rebooted Jeopardy in 1984. Before that, I had heard of the game because we had like a board game version of it, like from the 70s maybe, that I found, in our collection of board games, and I was like, wow, this is a game where people care if you know stuff. And then, of course, came the Trivial Pursuit. Trivial Pursuit was super popular, and we had all versions of the game, and we played it a lot as a family. My brother is super into trivia. And then when they rebooted it with Alex Trebek in 1984, I was in high school. And from that point on, I was like, I want to be on this show. And I tried out for the college tournament in 1990. And I passed the test and got to do the mock round at the Sony lot. But then they didn't pick me. So there you go. So yeah, I have loved Jeopardy for many, 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 many years. I just think it's great to have a game show that rewards people knowing things.
I mean, Jill's going to kill me here, but Jeopardy came out or was rebooted the year I was born.
Yay!
I haven't been watching as long as Jill, but I have literally been watching Jeopardy since as far back as I can remember. I would watch at my grandparents' house. They basically watched us at night because my parents worked multiple jobs. So I'd say like as far back as 1990, 1991, I was watching Jeopardy. And I wasn't, I didn't know anything. I was 6. But I got hooked very quickly on trivia. I was always a natural reader, a natural learner. I was always fascinated by trivia, so it just came naturally. I also played the NES game pretty much nonstop as a kid. I learned a lot about Simon and Garfunkel because that was always a category that came up, and it was a category about Czechoslovakia, so I know way too much about that too. But yeah, I've been pretty much obsessed with trivia since as far back as I can go in my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I think like most people, I watched a lot as a kid, and had like Brain Quest games and those sorts of things. And I do have like this Jeopardy book, but I just looked up because I've looked it up before. I remember specifically this memory of Monday. I'm on the J Archive, Monday, November 9th, 1992, and I knew it because I remember being a kid and having this final Jeopardy question, and of course it went away. And it was since the breakup of the Soviet Union, this is the largest country and area in the world. And I was 11, and I was like, well, it's Russia. and all 3 people said Canada, and I was like 11-year-old smug. I was like, see, I knew it, and these 3 grown-ups did not. And that's the kind of like, I guess it's the first kind of, I guess, if there was an internet, then I would have trolled them probably as 11-year-old because that's the way the world works. But it just felt really good to know stuff and know that other people didn't know it. And of course, I would have only known like 2 questions on the rest of the game. And so you do like to kind of compete and know, and we did the quiz bowl thing and all that in high school, but it just rewards you from like knowing stuff and be able to say it really fast and not think about it.
Okay. I actually enjoyed all of those answers. My next question, I'm going to ask some off the hashtag. This one from Fred Vaughn. What in your teaching experience prepared each of you best for the teachers tournament?
Say that again, Andy. I actually only heard part of that.
Sorry. What in your teaching experience prepared each of you best for the teachers tournament?
Well, I guess as far as my teaching experience, so I'm also the head coach of the Scholastic or the Quiz Bowl team at my high school, which is the same one. I'm also a person who teaches at I teach at my alma mater. So I've gone back with the organization for years, and doing that and always sort of having this overarching thirst for knowledge, like, hey, kids, ask me whatever you want. And, we all have these, iPads now. We're on a one-to-one program, and if I can't answer it, you have the internet at your disposal, and if you could stop playing games for 2 seconds, you can actually learn this stuff on your own. So.
For me, I think the great thing about teaching middle schoolers is you always have to be able to think on your feet and think as quickly as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was probably the best prep possible for this tournament. Just you never knew. Like I remember my quarterfinal first board was the teacher appreciation board, and looking at those categories and getting really freaked out by the dedication, the long hours. What am I gonna do here? And just being able to like think of anything as quickly as possible. I know that's not like a direct correlation, but I think that helps.
Jason, I was going to say that too, honestly. I think thinking on your feet is so important as a teacher. In terms of knowledge, we teach a vocabulary program at Central Academy that's called Word Within the Word, where you learn Latin stems and roots. And so that was good. And actually, some of our actual vocabulary words came up in my games. Xenophobia, I knew that anyway. Pedagogue, I knew that anyway. But what I'm saying is the kids were really excited when we watched the games, and there were their vocab words. They were fired up.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think being a English teacher, you try to figure out really what the meaning of the sentence is. And in Jeopardy, we all know this, is if you can figure out what it's asking, you can get it right even if you have no clue what it's actually about.
Very true.
So I think that helps. It helps you, answer the question without having to think about it too much, so you can do it more quickly. As far as knowledge goes, I mean, literature comes up quite a bit, and ironically, in the 2 games that I played, I didn't have to name a single book, which is a little disheartening. It's a waste of 34 years, but like Emerson came up in the game for today, and I teach him, and there's I mean, I think I have to do a lot of historical background looking for the stuff I teach, and that helps too. So I'm always trying to. I have to know more than the kids know, because they're going to ask me questions, and you don't want to sound dumb around them. You can always say, you can look it up, or I don't know, but it's at some level you should have the background down.
That makes sense. So, I'm going to ask one more question off the hashtag. If you're on the West Coast, by the way, it's nearing 7 p.m. Pacific. So, Jeopardy, the episode with Jason and Cory, going to be airing very shortly now. So you may want to watch that, especially considering once I'm done this next question, I'm going to be asking about today's game. So do keep that in mind. Spoilers are coming up. So yes, this next question is from @CoolVidsFTW with Jarek Brewell. Did Tournament of Champions ever cross your mind during taping?
Once I qualified for the spoiler. once the semifinal game was over, then I was thinking, Tournament of Champions is a possibility. And it's funny you should say Jarek, because he's from my town, so he's been a big supporter recently.
Yeah, Jarek is actually a big fan of Jeopardy Live Pen.
I have discovered that very recently.
Honestly, for me, I wasn't really looking that far ahead. Going into it, I was like, I just want to get to Washington, D.C. I want to be able to play there. I want to extend the experience as long as I can. And obviously, I mean, once you're there, and if you watch the game, you can, spoiler, see my face as things unfold. But I wasn't, really thinking about it. I mean, I remember watching some of the games over the past few months and being like, wow, I do not know as much as the people who will be in the Tournament of Champions do. Like Philip, who was on recently, is my favorite contestant for the last couple. For the last half year, I think he's great. I hope he's on the cutoff. But yeah, I didn't think that far ahead. It was just too unfathomable.
What about you, Jill?
You know what? Yeah, it's true when you get in the finals and you have a 1 in 3 shot at the Tournament of Champions, which is amazing. And I got to tell you, part of me was like, wow, I just want to play Jeopardy forever. And then the other part of me was like, wow, it's a lot of pressure to keep studying and studying and studying. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody else can relate to that.
Colby?
Well, it was certainly on my mind, eventually. But really, the purpose was just to say, I distinctly remember when I made it out of my quarterfinals. It's like, hey, I won 10 grand, and then when I won, when I got to the finals, like, all right, I've won at least another 10 grand, and then winning, well, I just decided to focus on just that one game. I really won that one game, so that's pretty much how that worked.
Okay, that works. So now I'm going to start asking a couple of questions about tonight's game. So if you're on the West Coast and don't want to be spoiled, probably a good time to disconnect. You can, I'm sure you can pick it up later. But
sorry, West Coasters, for spoiling already.
And me too.
The big story tonight, I think your rather large, nearly $10,000 daily double wager that didn't work out, Cory. Do you have any regrets about that?
You know what? I don't at all. I mean, if you look at the math there, just I can't remember exactly what it was, but I have 9,800, and Jason maybe had 15,600 or something.
Something like that.
15 even.
15 even. And so, like, just doing the math in my head, it was literally either go $5 or go pretty much everything. Because and that's one of the things I've been studying, looking at, and it's if I bet 2,000 and I got it right, I would still be behind him. And if I got him wrong, I'd be at 8,000. And the dude was killing me in that round. And there's who am I to think I was going to play even or better than him with 6 clues left? He was literally just a couple clues from pulling it away. And yeah, I thought I could bet minimum, and then we could just go for Final Jeopardy, and I would have to get it right, and he'd have to get it wrong. And I mean, part of it was sitting in the crowd for the first 2 games, and with the Final Jeopardies this week, one of the funny things I remember is when Joe Biden came out to the first Final Jeopardy, and it was about the GI Bill. I remember everybody that was around us for the games was like, "That's so easy." We were just sitting there in the crowd, like I almost didn't register that was Jill Biden. And then the same thing happened in your game, Jill. I mean, you played great, but it was a pretty easy Final Jeopardy. I think everyone would agree.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, if I get one of those, I have to be ahead of Jason, just from sitting and talking to him. It's very funny, like if you just like compared me and Jason's background from what we knew of each other and what our wives had talked about each other, we have so much alike, and I think a lot of the same knowledge base, except his is like higher than mine. So
please.
I had to be ahead of him. I wasn't gonna either. I was gonna do 0 or $5 or and I should have done it all. I left 100 in my mind because I'm like, I want to play Final Jeopardy, and mathematically I should have done everything.
There's something to be said for sticking around for Final.
Yeah, I mean, just to have the experience. If anyone can point to the math, any math that was a better option, I'd be happy to hear it. But I've gone over my head a lot, and in every single case, if I bet more than a couple hundred or 1,000, he could lock it out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I mean, the quick back of the envelope calculations I just did. I mean, if you're in a situation where the leader needs to get final wrong and you need to get it right, you've got about a 19% shot to win. And if you consider yourself to be about 50% on an average final, even if you're 40% on a daily double in a particular category or level, it's still in your best interests to go all in and just make sure you have that lead.
and honestly, I was, I wish I would have had the other daily double about bread and circuses. Like, Lauren, you're a history teacher. Do the history one first and leave the Latin to the English teachers. That would have worked out so much better for me. But I'd also gone to the museum the day before as part of my preparation in Washington, D.C., and I walked through the Vietnam exhibit, and it was about Vietnam and the media, and I'm like, okay, I've had a refresher, and so that's not a zero possibility that I would have known it, and I didn't know. I mean, point blank, I didn't blank. I didn't. I could have been up there all day, and I wouldn't have come up with it. There's no excuse in terms of that. It's just, if it was another category, maybe I would have done the zero, right? If it was classical music or opera or something else, I have no clue on. But I can't. I don't regret it. I think is the only thing I could do. Honestly, he was playing that well.
Thank you.
So what were your thoughts standing beside him and seeing him utter $9,700?
I honestly stopped breathing for about a solid minute there. As soon as he said 9,700, I went just sucked in, and I was like standing there, and then the clue came up, and I was like, I wasn't really sure. I thought it was McCarthy, right? Was that who it was? Eugene McCarthy?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah. I thought it might be McCarthy, but I was like, thank God this isn't me having to pick this, because I don't know what I would say. And I was standing there, and I realized in that moment, like, my game was going to come down to whether or not Cory got it right. And according to a lot of my friends, you can see me visibly just like release a ton of tension as soon as he got it wrong. And obviously I don't wish Cory any ill or anything like that. I felt terrible in that moment that happened, because as I've said to people, Cory is one of my favorite people from this tournament. He and I are so similar, and it's true. And it was a mix of both relief, but at the same time, it was like watching a friend get stabbed in the chest. Not that I've ever seen that happen, but it was mixed emotions is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, and and you hear so much about people playing not to lose, and I feel like I had enough, I have enough gaps in my knowledge where I'm not going to be, the all-star of all-star contestants, and so I wanted to play the right way and give myself the best chance that I could, and it just didn't feel right to bet on Jason not getting something later on. But in that moment, and I know Jason's a Simpsons fan, and so I'm dying to post this on Facebook, is that episode where Lisa breaks Ralph's heart at the
that moment,
the Krusty show. Yeah, that's right. You could just see the moment, like, your heart breaks. It's like,
yep.
It just, but that's how you play the. When you play the game, 2 or 3 people lose every time, and so there's always going to be that sense of heartbreak.
Okay, so moving on, we have a final Thursday and Friday.
No spoilers there.
No spoilers there. Don't worry. I know, Jill, you spoke a lot earlier about having working a lot on your buzzer, and being able feeling confident in being able to ring in. Now, Jason's been the best player in the tournament so far when it comes into getting in first.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Was
I actually think
was
Pete
that
did better
weighing
than
on
me,
your mind
actually.
at all that Jason was really, really strong in the buzzer?
Yeah, going into the final, going against Jason and Kaberi, I mean, Kaberi had just shown in her game taped earlier that day, that, she was able to make really gutsy wagers and had a really deep knowledge base, and so that was scary. Jason had shown that, yeah, he was really quick on the buzzer and knew a lot. So that's also scary. I mean, honestly, playing the game is really fun.
Yeah.
It is. It's
Yeah.
just really fun. I thought it was a blast. And I don't want to say I didn't take it seriously, because really, like, I did try to prepare to the best of my ability, and I practiced a lot. I ordered a buzzer from Fritz Holznagel, who does the buzzer app. And I would recommend that to anybody. I think it really helped me a lot. It plugs into your USB port and tests your reaction time. I mainly used it just to hold on to while I was watching games and practice ringing in at the right time, because I feel like the actual buzzer is kind of awkward because it's so large.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was used to that buzzer because I had been practicing with that buzzer since January. I've almost broken I've almost broken my replica buzzer because I watched so many games in preparation. I probably watched at least 100 games. So anyway, yeah, I was intimidated for sure and tired. But there's nothing like, it was such a thrill to get to play Jeopardy as much as I did. To get to play in 4 games, wow. Most people do not get that chance.
True.
I did not realize that Fritz was the one who made those buzzers.
Yes.
I'm going to be looking him up right after this show. So
Yeah, I
he
highly
was definitely
recommend it.
put part of Ticona.
Yeah, he was at Ticona, and he also has an ebook. I think it's called Secrets of the Buzzer, and it's awesome. Like, it tells you, it gives you suggestions. Don't wait for Alex to read the question. Read it through quickly, and then turn your head and look for the light, and wait for the light and ring in for the light. And he tells you exactly how to hold the buzzer. I noticed when I was watching my games, you can't tell, for the most part, you can't tell when I was trying to ring in and when I wasn't trying to ring in because of where I was holding the buzzer. Because I held it the way Fritz told me to hold it, which is funny. But then, Andy, it was funny. I was reading your statistics on your site of my games, and my impression when I was playing was, wow, I'm getting in on everything I want to get in on. But in my 2 games so far, other people had much better buzzer statistics than I did, but I didn't feel that way. I felt like, hey, when I wanted to ring in, I pretty much got it. Maybe I just didn't know as much, and waited to, I don't know.
So I've been dying to ask Jason this, because in our game, in today's game, I was feeling really good about the buzzer in the first in the first Jeopardy round. And Double Jeopardy, I don't know if I slacked off and you can watch the game and I'm like getting visibly frustrated. Where like I was like a baby and I stopped getting what I wanted. And I don't know if you adjusted at all, or if I don't know.
What I think it was? Sorry to interject here. I've got the chart from today's game right in front of me. I think Lauren picked up the buzzer.
Well, I that was noticeable too.
Yeah, it was Lauren in double when she started basically daily double hunting. If I remember correctly, that's what she was telling us in the commercial break. I got into that groove, I think, towards the end of the single Jeopardy round, the Dodge Podge category.
Yeah, you got 9 in a row in single Jeopardy, Jason.
I read that on your tweets, and I was just like, I did? I didn't even notice as I was watching the replay. well, not the replay, but watching it live, or however you want to call it. I don't even know how to describe it. In my first game, my quarterfinal game, people noted that I had a really hard time buzzing in at first. I had a hard time getting the timing down. And then I guess the same thing happened here. Just trying to buzz in, but not having the timing immediately, and eventually getting into the groove. But I don't know, honestly.
Because I always wanted to know, because when we did the rehearsals, I looked at the lights,
Mm-hmm.
and then I kept getting in LA, and I kept losing, and then I stopped looking at the lights and was just going by Alex.
That's exactly what happened to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got way better. I didn't look at the lights anytime after that, and I felt really good until like in my quarterfinal game. Most of the time I didn't get the buzzer, and it was because I didn't know it. So I feel like I probably got 60% of the stuff I knew in the quarterfinal game. In the second game was a different, but the lights I felt are more of a hindrance. I think it just adds another layer to the reaction time.
For me, yeah, I felt kind of the same way. In our LA practice, I remember being really frustrated and shooting a glance at my wife, who was sitting, somewhere in the audience, and just like, I know everything in this practice game, and I cannot, for the life of me, buzz in. If I remember in the practice game, I literally did not buzz in once. I was just like, I know this, and yeah, I stopped paying attention to the lights. It was all about anticipating when the lights were going on and clicking like right before the lights.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
It's something I've heard before. For the record, I just went through specifically. In your Double Jeopardy round today, Lauren actually got in first 9 times, Jason 7, and Cory 5. And there were quite a few clues. I think 7 of them, where none of you decided to take a gander on. So I think what happened is that Lauren found her timing a little bit, and that's kind of what might have knocked you guys off.
I agree with that. Yeah, Lauren definitely got into a groove to start the second round. Like I said, she told us during the commercial between double and final, because we were up there, having a couple conversations, that she was really trying to get into the daily double to catch the two of us, if I remember right, and she definitely got into a bit of a groove there, and it threw me off when she was going.
So let me get this straight. She was hunting daily doubles.
Yes.
She wanted the daily doubles to try to catch up. She found the daily double.
And she wagered low. That's what was it like? Was it like $1,000 on the?
Yeah. She had 1,800 and she wagered 1,000.
Well, I mean, is the max 2,000 in double if you don't have it? I mean,
yeah, the max is 2,000.
Yeah, I guess she didn't want to wipe herself out, and she almost. I think she realized, and I'm clearly like projecting here. I think she realized that it might not have been the best strategy because she didn't have the money built up yet. But I think, yeah, she was definitely just trying to lock us out at the very least. Maybe saying daily double hunting isn't the best way of putting it, but she realized she was playing from behind. She said as much to us.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I didn't talk to her after. I can only think of being in her position that she may not have been able to think that she could catch all the way up. So she may have wanted to just have enough money in case it came to that. Somebody have to ask her.
Yeah, you'd have to grab her in here.
She knows how to play. Just talking to her, I mean, she knows how to play. So I don't think I think she had some reason for what she was doing. Because if you watched her first game, she also I think she opened or answered the first question right in her game, and she was in second place, and she went right to something for 2,000 or something for 1,600.
Mm-hmm.
So it was some conscious strategy that she had.
I mean, it threw me off. I didn't get to watch her first game, nor did you, the first time around. So I wasn't expecting her to like jump around like she did.
Yeah, it seemed like looking at my chart of the quarterfinal at least, she didn't seem to do a lot of hunting. Maybe actually no, she did actually. Kind of think of it, she did hunt around in furniture. In the Jeopardy, she did hunt around a little bit, but not hugely.
Mm.
Now, you know, I just thought of something, Jill. I wonder if your thoughts on being able to get in when you wanted were as much on the rebounds, because you picked up a lot of rebounds during your semifinal. I think you were second or second in on the buzzer like half a dozen times, and I think 5 of those were correct rebounds.
Yeah, that was. Do you know that's something I thought a lot about before I played? Was And I even asked that question, actually, I think when we were asking Maggie questions before we ever played. How do you know when you can ring in if the person gets it wrong? And so that was something like every time somebody else answered, I was ready to ring in case they got it wrong. There were a couple times in that semifinal game that I was kicking myself that I had not rung in quicker, but it just didn't come to me quickly enough. And then somebody else had already rung in, and then I lucked out, like on the Grey Gardens. It was for 2000. And as soon as I saw that Edie, I was like, oh, crap, that's Grey Gardens. And Chris had already gotten it. I was like, argh. But then he said Grey Mansions or something.
Yeah, you said Grey Mansions.
And then I was like, I was so excited. And there were a couple times too that people rang in and eliminated, my wrong answer, because I sometimes get George Sand and George Eliot confused, but I knew if it wasn't one, it was the other. So I was able to get that rebound. That's kind of fun. Honestly, and like the intellectual property one I got, Bill, I knew that one cold, and Bill rang in and he knew it too. He just couldn't come up with it once he had rung in. So I was really relieved when I got that one too. So yeah, it did help me a lot. And anytime your opponent negs, then you get that much higher. Does that make sense? I mean, it's a spread then.
Yeah,
which is kinda nice.
It counts double when you get it going the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really kicked myself that I did not know the lighthouse at Alexandria. I did. In my defense, I did.
The lights do that sometimes.
I just, you know what? I memorized the whole list at once, and I had heard of Lighthouse of Alexandria, prior to me trying to memorize the list, but then I got too much knowledge in my head with the list, and anyway, that's fine. It's all good. It's fine. It's in the past now. I have to let it be like a balloon and let it float away.
Yep, that's a good way of looking at it. Nothing you can do about it now. So do any of you have any random questions for anyone else on the panel? Because I've just about gone through my index card, both sides full of questions. So,
Cory, why don't we know about literary circles? That's the big thing I noticed today on the.
I didn't know the last one, and I still don't. The Rossettis.
The Rossettis, I have no idea.
So the one about the Roundheads and the Cavaliers, I mean the Cavaliers and Roundheads always go together, but I always just thought Cavaliers were a political group, and so I was like, what did they write? And it was one of those. I should have went for it, and Alex mentioned that you knew it because I think I was literally like mouthing the words like Cavalier, and he was like probably just watching me like, are you gonna buzz in for that one? Or
I was staying away from that. I wasn't sure, so I was like,
so I mean I was pretty that's just the it's the peanut butter and jelly of Restoration era England, and I didn't want to take the risk. I think one of the conscious things I made after the quarterfinal game was I made a really stupid guess on Papua New Guinea for where Bahrain is, and I was like, okay, I tried
Oh,
to.
do you mean Bhutan? Oh, sorry, Brunei?
Brunei. Sorry, Brunei. I still don't know where it is. And and so I wanted to make sure I didn't lock myself out of anything, because that was, I think the Cavaliers one was a $1,200 question, and
Yeah.
in my quarterfinal game, by guessing on Papua New Guinea, I basically cost myself 1,600, and that was the difference from me being in first and second. So I didn't want to buzz in. And I only got two wrong in that. I didn't get to buzz in all the time, but I only got two wrong in the last game, and one of them was on that Mad Furious, all three of us trying to get Capri Sun, which was like the biggest. Like, come on, you have pouch and juice in the same question.
I had no idea.
Capri Sun, come on.
No idea Hawaiian Punch was in pouches. No idea.
I'm old, so I knew Hawaiian Punch. Because I'm old, right? That's what we had before Capri Sun, you whippersnappers.
And I actually have a vivid memory of like just feeling like Jason next to me, buzzing away, like it's like we're like, it's like $1,000. We have to get Capri Sun, and so that was one of them I got wrong, and then I got Edinburgh instead of Glasgow wrong, which is I think interesting for people watching the show, because they're like, oh, it couldn't be Edinburgh because Edinburgh was just on Friday's game, but to me it was like. It was 6 weeks before, so I'd forgotten that I'd actually said that as an answer, in February.
I've got one more from the hashtag Matt Carberry at MFC248. Can Maggie's comment that caused Nicole to lose it on air in the Tuesday quarterfinal be divulged?
I mean, it wasn't really a comment. During our bus ride to Culver City and during the pre-game filling out the form, she just kept singing "Hot for Teacher," and Nicole she sang it to Nicole a lot, actually. So I just think it threw all of us, and Nicole's a very outgoing, exuberant person, and it caused her to just break out laughing, and I don't blame her. I laughed a little too. I'm very showy. I'm very, according to Twitter at least, I'm very emotional and very jumpy. But I'm not jumpy in that way, I guess. So I thought it was hilarious too. But that's all it was. She was just singing "Hot for Teacher" pretty much nonstop all morning.
Yeah, she didn't sing it to me.
Nor to me directly either.
So I missed it. I missed it. But Maggie's just a delight in every way.
Absolutely.
And we all got such a kick out of her and the whole experience. She was just fun from beginning to end. There was a time when we all sang together, actually. We all sang the song "Lean on Me."
That's right.
And the producer, Harry, came in and we sang to him. And I thought we sounded darn good, honestly. Right?
What did Harry think?
He was smiling. He seemed happy. I thought it was fun. I mean, that was really the only contact I had with him the whole tournament, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he came up to me to tell me they were going to accept the mead question.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I kind of laughed it off because I thought it was I mean, I felt like I think you probably felt I was like taking it too lightly, but I thought it was just really funny that Norwegians had pineapple to make mead somehow. And so if you watch the video, I'm just like, of course that makes complete sense. But I have a question for Jill and Jason. I'm curious because I didn't get to see any games until we got to DC. So I was wondering how watching the games that you did during the quarterfinals helped you prepare or made you think about going to DC and who you might have to play and what you might have to like shore up on.
Honestly, I started second guessing things a lot. I was like, analyzing way too much from the seats. Like, knowing that I had this spot in the semifinals locked up, and I maybe Jill had the same experience. I was nervous just watching you play, watching Bill play, watching Pete, watching Jill, to be quite honest, watching every single game that I saw, every single person. I was just like, oh, they're good. This is bad. And I kind of envied you going. I remember you were like, I don't remember anybody who made it to the second round. So going in blind, I think, might have been a little bit better. And then my wife was like, oh, you got to watch out for Chris too, and you got to watch. I was just like, oh God, I got to watch out for everybody.
Yeah, my mom said Chris is the one to beat. And then, of course, I found out, oh, that's who I'm going against in the semifinal. And I told him on the White House tour, I sidled up to him and I said, Chris, my mom says you're the one to beat. And he went, ho, ho, Jill. I mean, what a wonderful guy. He was just fun. But, yeah, I thought people looked really good, honestly. The thing that struck me watching those games is that I felt like I really lucked out with my Wednesday game in the quarterfinal because I thought our questions were so much easier than, in particular, than the Thursday round that I watched that had, Peter and Terry and Tanaya. Yeah, I thought, boy, when I was watching that game, from the stands anyway, and it could just be that I was really fried at that point, but I was just like, I don't know these. I don't know this. It's a good thing they asked me questions I knew, because I don't know these. When I watched it again from home, and of course I'd already heard the questions once, but then I felt like, okay, I probably would have been somewhat credible. So I thought that was a little intimidating.
I thought if I had been watching those 5 quarterfinals, I probably would have said that, or from the audience, I probably would have said Peter would have been the one to beat.
Yeah, I honestly, Peter, definitely, I thought was the one to beat, and I don't want to say I was relieved because I really do. I hope Jill and Cory feel the same way. I've said it to them on our little secret Facebook, shh, don't tell anybody, teacher group. I really appreciate and respect every single person who was in this tournament. So the idea of, everybody was great and everybody was so nice and so smart, and it was just, I was intimidated by Peter though, and I was a little bit relieved when Kabiri caught him, honestly, because I don't know. I think Pete's the fastest on the buzzer, looking at the stats for the first 2 rounds, even more so than me. I think he had the best Koreat scores, everything. Just Pete's a fantastic player.
I remember watching. I didn't see his first game, but my wife said something about him after the quarterfinals. But I think some of us went to the bathroom between the first 2 rounds of the Monday game, and I think we felt like Pete had it locked up that game. He was just so impressive. And even though looking back at the game, the scores weren't, they weren't insurmountable by any means. It just seemed like he knew what he was doing, and was just, just the one for me, the one to beat. Just even in rehearsals too. I just felt like he was so quick on the buzzer and confident in things. And so I would agree with that assessment after the first week.
And by the looks of it, at least by my paper here, he's got he was the best on the buzzer for the first 2 rounds, as well as having the most correct and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it goes to show it's not just about the reaction time or anything like that. Yeah. It's about how you wager when you catch the daily doubles. It's more than just being fast, although that does certainly help.
So any other questions in amongst anyone else on the panel?
Colby, I feel bad we haven't heard from you for a long time.
It's true.
Well, I don't have much to say. This was 3 years ago for me. And when you guys are specifically talking about, other people in your tournament and people that you played, I don't have too much to chime in. I mean, unless you guys have questions for me, like, I really chime in on this one.
Did you like?
Thank you for that's some very good teacher stuff. Involved the one person who's not talking that much in the back.
Yeah, we want to make sure that your voice is heard. So,
Participation counts as part of your grade.
Yeah. We might give you an exit slip.
Exit card. What did you learn today, Colby?
Oh, not.
So, Jason and Cory, did you guys play Quiz Bowl in college?
We had a Quiz Bowl team in high school, and it actually, I took over as president, I want to say my junior year, and every single person who founded the club had graduated, and it was literally me and my one really close friend, and that was it. And we tried to recruit a bunch of people, and the teacher who ran it retired, and it just fell apart. So not really. 2 years. That's about it. It's all about Sporkle for me.
We did a Quiz Bowl in high school, but it was really more of us hanging out with our favorite teacher and just playing around. Like, we didn't study for it. We didn't. Like, we just kind of went in with what we knew. I don't think we never actually won a match.
Also same.
Yeah, we bought actually a replica, like $20, like WWF at the time championship belt for our coach to wear if we ever won, and he promised. But the team like carried on and won like 3 years later, and he finally wore it. But yeah, I feel like I'm so glad I went this year. But I feel like I'm kind of like fraudulent in the trivia world because I don't really spend that much time on it. Like, I do have like a Sporkle account, and I play it every once in a while, and I like going to trivia nights at bars when I can and stuff like that. But it's like one of those like just in the past 4 months I've gotten so much better at this sort of thing, and I know there are people who are like practicing for like this Jeopardy moment for a long time. So I feel kind of bad that I kind of lucked into it. I mean, I've taken the online test and only had one audition, but so yeah.
There's also something to be said, I think, for not actually spending your entire the entirety of your existence trying to get on Jeopardy.
This is true.
Very true.
Because I would say I've heard from some people who have spent years and years and years of working on it, and then it doesn't really work out for them, and then they end up really disappointed. So from that perspective, I think it's good not to have Jeopardy be that not overarching thing.
Yeah, can't be your white whale. So Jill, you're doing a lot of trivia stuff though now. Like, is that a recent thing in your?
What you mean? I'm participating in the Think Differentlys?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Well,
I had never done that before, honestly. No, I was kind of a groupie in college. I dated a guy who was on a really super successful college bowl team. I wasn't good enough. I mean, honestly, I was very much an also-ran / groupie of our college bowl team. But I really had fun, helping them practice, and I was a moderator and, did stuff like that. And then when I went to grad school, I got on the college bowl team because, it was in its nascent stages, I would say. And I was fired up because I think it's really fun. I think it's so fun to buzz in and know something. I just think it's so fun. So, yeah, I have liked trivia for a long time, but in terms of like, do I think I have legit trivia skills? No. Like, anybody who met me at Ticona knows that I was very, 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 very much a bottom feeder, very much so. So, I spent 4 months trying to get ready for this, and did my best. Tried to learn to play the game, tried to memorize some lists. I also have a lot of papers that I grade on a regular basis, and I have 4 children at home as well. So I didn't have a ton of time to devote to it. But I do think it's really fun. And I like the people on the J board, and I like all you guys, and it's been a great experience.
Hey Colby, I have a question for you. Do you keep in touch with the people do you keep in touch with the people you competed with in the teacher tournament?
I mean, I would say yes. I would say that Kate, the person who finished third, she's also a Quiz Bowl coach, and so I see her at national tournaments every now and again. It's not a regular thing. It's just like, oh, something fun has happened on Facebook. That's great. Or I will meet up with people I played with at T-Kona or something like that. But, yeah, I'm not particularly active in meeting up with people, though it was really a nice bunch. So, I mean, whenever things happen, it's nice to be in the thick of things. So, sort of dodged that question.
Okay. Any other questions at this point?
Cory, what's your Sporkle name?
Mr. Harris, Mister Harris, and that's because I made some Sporkle quizzes a long time ago for my students, assess my students on like vocabulary and Silas Marner and stuff like that. But I still use it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you should send me yours too. What's yours? Because you're like moderator guy or something.
I'm an editor. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's LEL_Dandy. Wrestling reference from the 90s.
El Dandy, yeah, WCW.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Everybody else in this group is just like, what are they talking about? But very heavily involved there.
Just El Dandy, okay.
El Dandy, yes. And I just followed you, so.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
Well, I think we're actually at a record length for a Jeopardy live panel at this point. So I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming on tonight and sticking with us for looks like we're nearing an hour 45. Yep. And also for everyone who's tuned in for this hour 45. I hope everyone was entertained by the discussion. I'm hoping to get another panel together at some point next week to discuss the finals a little bit. I don't know if people are interested in hearing about the finals, but I will. I'm hoping to get one set up. There's a big Quiz Bowl type tournament here in Ontario this weekend, so I am again, gung-ho about that, and then back down kind of once I decompress a bit middle of next week. I will try to get another panel together. So for all of you who tuned in, to you guys also for joining me tonight, thank you very much. I hope everyone had fun.
Definitely. Thank you, Andy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun.
Yeah, it was great to be a part of this.
So let me just get the credits up. If you're tuning, remember you can always tune in or subscribe via iTunes using hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel. You can find us on iTunes there. If you're listening on iTunes, of course, you'll hear the credits very shortly. If you're tuning in on YouTube, obviously, here are the credits right here. Thank you very much for tuning in and taking part, and have an excellent night. To Jason and Jill, best of luck in the best of retroactive luck, I should say, in the finals.
Yeah, you've created a time paradox, but thank you.
Yes, I have. Okay, well, thank you very much, and have an excellent, excellent night.